The world's elite are warning of the dangers facing the planet as they gather in Davos, Switzerland. More than 2,700 people are attending the World Economic Forum. The guests range from the chief of the European Union to actor, Idris Elba. Those who are privileged enough to join are tasked with solving some of the world's biggest problems. The World Economic Forum laid out some of those problems in its Global Risk Report. It warns that COVID-19 and the war in Ukraine have thrust the global economy into different times. It says, quote, the resulting new economic era may be one of growing divergence between rich and poor countries and the first rollback of human development in decades. Neil Irwin joins me now. He's the chief economics correspondent at Axios. So, Neil, something outlined in this report is the risk of a polycrisis, which is the word of the moment and the word of Davos. It's essentially multiple global crises happening at once that knock into each other like billiard balls. Is this a new phenomenon we should be worried about, or just another way of saying what we already know, which is that the world is complicated?
Yeah, look, there's certainly a lot of things that are unique about this moment in world history and economic history, inflation and rising interest rates, global warming, conflict in Europe with Ukraine, the risk of further conflict, other parts of the world. It's all complex and it's all challenging. In some ways, that's what history is. History is a series of challenges humanity faces that sometimes get resolved in peaceful, good ways and sometimes in not so good ways. Apart from the terminology, I think there is something important here, which is that this is a delicate moment for the world economy, for the world geopolitical sphere, and that's what these global elites gathered in Davos, Switzerland are really talking about. And
when you look at the long-term risks, 4 of the top 5 long-term global risks outlined in this report are climate change related. Failure to mitigate climate change, failure of climate change adaptation, natural disasters, biodiversity loss. Package all those together. What can these crises, these environmental risks lead to in terms of destabilizing the global economy?
There's a lot of moving pieces. There's kind of migration, and as some places on Earth become less inhabitable, do we have mass migration into other places and all the political and economic disruption that can cause? There's also just the scale of the investment needed to mitigate and address climate change. We're talking about trillions of dollars over decades, and that can crowd out other types of investment, other types of consumption. That's an expensive bill to pay, and the world is going to be paying it for a long time to come. How all those things net out and where that leaves us as a world, we really don't know. We're in the early innings of this, and I think that's the kind of thing hanging over all kinds of other economic disputes and discussions. How do things look as we also have pandemics that seem to always pop up whenever in unexpected ways, wars. These things can all, and that's the polycrisis idea. These things can all collide in ways that are worse than the sum of the parts is the risk.
One of the other warnings in the report is about essentially countries doing kind of the exact opposite of globalism. In other words, using sanctions, tariffs, other economic punishments to build self-sufficiently. We see the U.S. doing it with semiconductor chips and China. What is the danger of that, of basically countries deciding we can't cooperate in the way we used to, we must kind of close ranks or protect ourselves? What larger economic danger might that cause?
So the risk is that you lose the benefits of trade, which are that economic activity, production moves to its most efficient place. And so everybody's richer because everybody is, this is David Ricardo, Adam Smith, comparative advantage. These are ideas from 300-400 years ago that still apply. And the risk is that if you cut off some of the moving activity to where it's most competitive advantage, you make everybody poorer. Now, some of that is for reasonable reasons, right? The U.S. and China are not getting along as well as they did 10 years ago. And so it's understandable that if you're the United States, you maybe don't want so much of your core kind of productive capacity outsourced to China. Maybe you want it either domestic or in a friendlier nation, in Mexico, in Vietnam, somewhere that there's less geopolitical strife. But either way, it means moving things to a less economically efficient place.
And finally, Neil, in attendance in Davos are 600 CEOs, 56 finance ministers, 19 central bank governors. This is a fancy group. And what I wonder is your thoughts on how can this group of global elite essentially come up with a series of prescriptions that the rest of the world might look at and say, you're basically telling us what to do? Is there basically a conflict or a tension with the world listening to what Davos is saying? Even if the prescriptions are right, is the messenger one that gets in the way of solving those difficulties that they name?
Yeah, I think it's a great point. And we've seen in many countries over recent years, certainly with Trump in the United States, but also with Brexit, with Italian elections recently, name a country, there's some sense of the ruling elite are not doing their job and not getting it right. And so for that same ruling elite, the CEO class, the Davos crowd, to kind of lay out, here's how we think the world should be fixed, that does not go over well with masses of people around the world. And again, that's independent of whether you think these ideas are basically right or completely off the wall. The democratic currents are moving the opposite direction.
All right, Neil Irwin of Axios, thanks so much for being with us.
Appreciate it.